class, we are going to study some of the important topics. Okay, this is almost the end of the chapter. We've come to the end of the chapter of motion in a straight line. Now today I'll be dealing with just equations. What happens when in a non-uniformly accelerated motion? What equations will be there? Okay, so in a non-uniformly accelerated motion, when I'm talking about when acceleration is a function of time, okay, so acceleration, when it is a function of time, then velocity is what, children? Change in displacement divided by time taken, right? So ds, s symbolizes what? Displacement. So ds, change in distance divided by time, is nothing but velocity in a non-uniformly accelerated motion. Okay, then if I want to bring this dt to this side, then it will be what? Dt into v is equal to ds. Yes, so whenever we have velocity and displacement, we use this type of equation. Now, acceleration. What is acceleration? Change in velocity divided by time taken, right? So dv by dt with respect to time taken in an unaccelerated motion. When acceleration is a function of time, then acceleration can be expressed as change in velocity, that is dv, divided by dt, right? Now we know that, may I just multiply and divide both sides by ds, right? So if I have dv by dt, then if I do into ds by ds, will it change anything? Will it change anything? No, because ds again I can cancel, right? So I'll just multiply and divide by ds. So what I can write, dv by ds into ds by dt. Okay, one I put, this ds I put here, dv by ds into ds by dt. Okay, so we know that ds by dt is nothing but what? V. Correct? So v into dv by ds is nothing but v. Clear? Clear? Now, so therefore, what I can write is a is equal to v into dv by ds, or a into ds is nothing but v into dv. Clear? So these equations we use when we are solving equations when an acceleration is a function of time and in a non-uniformly accelerated motion. Clear? So these are some of the formulas which you need to remember. Okay? So that whenever we are solving some problems, it's easier for you. Now, after knowing about this, the next thing that we have to study is a little bit about acceleration due to motion, equations of motion for an object under gravity. Okay, equations of motion, equations of motion, equations of motion for the motion of an object, for the motion of an object under gravity. Okay, alright, so let's study this now. Alright, now when I'm talking about equations of motion, now what are the three equations of motion that we have studied? We have studied three equations of motion, right? What are they?
One is to get a velocity time equation.
Right?
Yes, ma'am. Which is s is equal to ut plus half at square.
Ut plus half at square.
B square is equal to u square plus 2as.
B square is equal to u square plus 2as. These were the equations of motion which we had previously studied, right? So these were nothing but what? Equations.
And there's one more, like it's a shortcut, but displacement is v plus u by 2 multiplied by t for uniform acceleration.
For uniform acceleration, what did you say? Yes, Baba, yes. True.
U plus v by 2 multiplied by t.
Yes, yes. For uniform acceleration, correct. But we consider these three equations as the standard equations of motion, right? So what happens is, now what is gravity? What do you think gravity is?
Ma'am, it's an acceleration that is pulling objects downwards towards the earth.
Correct. That is nothing but gravity, right? Now we feel weight. Why do we feel weight? You know, right?
We have the gravitational force.
Okay. Now, any object attracts every other object in the universe with a force, right? So that is gravity. So the force of gravity is nothing but it attracts all the objects to itself. Especially when we were talking about uniform circular motion, okay? So when I am talking about uniform circular motion or non-uniform circular motion, you know, when I'm just tying a knob and I'm rotating it, so if that knob rotates around its axis there, right? Why is it, if I just leave it off, then it goes in tangential manner, right? So we are holding it, right? That is why it is rotating there. So similarly, what happens is we all are bound towards the earth, right? So all the entire gravitational force is pulling us down towards the earth. So that is gravity. Now what happens is we are going to study equations of motion for an object under gravity. Okay, now let us consider three cases here. Now if I'm throwing, I have a pen, okay? If you have a ball, you can take a ball. I'm throwing this up, it comes down to me again, right? Is it staying up only forever? No. It goes up, it comes down, right? Now similarly, now you see here, let me consider three cases here, okay? Now, suppose this is a ball, okay? I'm throwing it upwards here. So here, when I'm throwing this upward, do you think it will stay there? No. It will come down also, right? Yes? Everybody agree to it? An object when thrown upwards definitely comes down in the same direction, right? So, whatever distance will be there, right? So, S, whenever I'm considering in the equation of motion, whenever I'm considering S for distance, S is nothing but height here. S is nothing but height. The distance traveled by it is nothing but the height that it has, started and ended from. Okay, so whenever I'm considering equations of motion, distance is nothing but height. S is equal to h. Okay, now when I'm considering three cases, now I'm throwing this up. Okay, so here velocity, it's going on increasing in the upward direction, but okay, velocity is going on increasing in the upward direction, but acceleration due to gravity is in downward direction, right? So acceleration decreases as it goes up, correct? If I'm going opposite to the gravity, what will happen? It will decrease, right? Definitely the acceleration due to gravity will decrease, right? So acceleration, if I'm throwing it up, so definitely it's going to have a deceleration. So here gravity will decrease but velocity will increase. Here velocity is increasing but acceleration due to gravity is decreasing. Now at the highest point, velocity will be zero, right? So at the highest point will be zero velocity. Then it starts, coming downwards. So velocity is maximum here. But still the acceleration due to gravity is again pulling it down. So again acceleration due to gravity is in the downward direction, right? Now when it comes here, right, when both of them are coming down, velocity is also coming down, acceleration is also in the downward direction. So when it's coming down, velocity is also more, and also velocity is definitely it's increasing, and acceleration due to gravity is also increasing in the downward direction. Am I clear, children? Am I clear? Did you understand the concept of gravity, acceleration due to gravity? Now, in equations of motion, we used to take A as acceleration, right? Yes, we used to take A as acceleration. But when I'm talking about equations of motion and the motion of an object under gravity. So how is the motion under gravity? Here A may be in the form of G. G is called as acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity. Am I clear? So the three equations of motion that we are studying here will take the form V is equal to U plus or minus GT. Yes. Then S is nothing but what here? H. So H is equal to UT plus half plus or minus GT square. GT square, only T will have a square. GT square. Okay. Then it will be what? V square is equal to U square plus V square plus 2 plus or minus GH. Correct? So these three equations of motion we will get whenever the body is under gravity. Okay, now what about sign conventions? Now when I'm talking about sign conventions, we all know the sign conventions. This is y direction and this is minus y direction, right? Yes, everybody agree to it? This is x direction and this is minus x direction, correct? Now when we look at a practical example, we come to know that acceleration due to gravity, as it goes up, definitely there is a deceleration, right? So acceleration is nothing but decreasing as it's going upward, but its sign is positive. Okay, why? Because of the sign convention rules. Please do not confuse this, because even I was confused when I was studying. Alright, so when it's going up, acceleration due to gravity is decreasing. But according to the sign convention rule, whenever acceleration due to gravity is going in the positive direction, we take it as plus g, that is 9.8 meters per second. But when it's coming down, the acceleration due to gravity is increasing. But in the downward direction, it is negative, right? That is negative direction. G is equal to minus 9.8 meter per second square. Am I clear, children? Understood? Yes? No doubts now? Clear? When do we take? Am I clear? Yes? Yes or no? Did you understand what we did? So these three
Yes,
equations
ma'am.
of motion became these three equations of motion. So henceforth, we are going to study one problem, okay? One problem based on free fall. Now, what is free fall? What is free fall? Free fall is nothing but, we can feel wherever we are standing, right? Why? Because there's a reaction that is produced, reaction force that is acting perpendicular to gravitational force for us, right? But if something is, something is falling down, okay? If one object is under free fall, it's just falling down, and there is no air resistance to it. If I'm neglecting the air resistance, then I'll tell that the object is under free fall. Understood? So if I'm neglecting the air resistance that is produced from the earth, then I say that yes, the object is under free fall. Okay? So based on free fall, we are going to solve the problems. Am I clear? Clear? What is free fall?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
can quickly someone summarize what is all this? Equations of motion for motion under gravity? Please don't be confused with the signs, okay? So always I too got a lot of confusion. I had a lot of confusion. Why is acceleration due to gravity positive when it is going up? It's not positive. It's just the direction is mentioned as positive. Okay, but when it is coming down, it is positive. The acceleration due to gravity is positive, but only due to sign conventions we take it as negative. Am I clear, children? Please don't be confused with this. Okay, more about this in detail we will study when we are doing gravitation chapter. Lot about sign conventions and all we are going to study it there. But only thing that you need to remember is these three equations, which are very important whenever we are solving problems. Yes. So can quickly somebody summarize what is this all about? What are equations of motion of an object under gravity? Yes. Prachita? Did you understand, children, what I thought? Is it clear to you all? Not clear?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Clear?
clear. It's clear.
Okay. Can someone quickly summarize so that we can go ahead? What is all this? So here acceleration became acceleration due to gravity. One more important thing I forgot. An acceleration due to gravity's value is between 9.8 to 10 meter per second square we take it, okay? But mostly we take it 9.8 meter per second square, okay? Then one more gravity, suppose this is the surface of the earth, it is maximum here at the surface of the earth, okay? G is maximum here at the surface of the earth, and as it goes up, it is minimum. Okay, acceleration due to gravity becomes minimum. Am I clear? Am I clear with this? So instead of A, we will write G. Okay, why plus or minus? Because according to sign conventions, if it is going up, then G is positive. According to sign conventions, if it is coming down, it is negative. Okay, so V is equal to U plus or minus GT is the first equation. Then if why? Because why is S considered as H? Because the distance that it will travel, it will go up, it will come down. So distance is nothing but the height taken by the object. So S will take the form of H. H is equal to UT plus half plus or minus GT square. And also V square is equal to U square plus 2 plus or minus G into H. Okay, so these three are the equations of motion of an object under gravity. Am I clear? Am I clear? So
Yes,
if I'm throwing some object up, there is a decrease of acceleration, but there is increase in velocity. At the maximum height, velocity becomes 0, right? Velocity at that instant, okay? If continuously the object is at rest, if continuously the velocity is 0, then I say that the object is at rest completely, right? But at that instant, the velocity is 0. Okay, once it goes up and the moment it turns down, that instant becomes 0. But still the acceleration is still acting in the downward direction. Then when it turns and it comes down, definitely velocity is increasing and acceleration due to gravity is also increasing. Clear, children? Am I clear with this? Are you clear with the concept now? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, now we go free fall and all of that we will cover up once we finish other concepts. Okay. Now next concept is Galileo's law of odd numbers. Galileo's law of odd numbers. Okay. Galileo's law of odd numbers. Now, what happened was in the previous era, okay, in long back, when today we have all equations of motion, right? So equations of motion are there, so that's why a lot of we can calculate what is the velocity, what is distance, this, that, and all. It is very easy for us, right? At what position is what distance covered at what time taken. But previously in those days, equations of motion were not known, right? And one quantitative analysis, suppose an object is falling, okay, suppose an object is going from one place to another place, still we didn't know how much distance it had traveled, okay, or how much distance it had covered at what time taken. So something, see, if it would fall, initially it would be slow and suddenly it will increase, the velocity would keep on increasing. So people that time were very confused, what was actually the final happening. That time Galileo, okay, he gave a formula. Okay, what happened was, when I'm considering about Galileo's law of odd numbers, he took one inclined plane. Okay, he took one inclined plane, and in the inclined plane, he kept an object. Okay, now when an object goes right, definitely its velocity changes and its acceleration comes into picture. Here he said when the ball moves in an inclined plane, the acceleration is nothing but g sine theta. Okay, why acceleration came g sine theta, we will see it as in the next chapter. Okay, so we have a big derivation for that and all of that, so we are going to see it in the upcoming chapter. So when an object goes down in an inclined plane, the acceleration that is produced by the object is g sine theta, he said. Okay, and then he said the value of acceleration is a is equal to g sine theta. Now suppose this is the position, at this position y is equal to 0. Here at position 1, y is equal to 1. Position y is equal to 2. At position y is equal to 3. Here at position y is equal to 4. Here at position y is equal to 5, so on. Okay, it goes on. So the position changes. He took certain units. Alright. Then what he did was, now suppose if this wedge's angle, suppose this is an inclined plane or a wedge, right? Suppose the angle of inclination, okay, or the angle of inclination gave an acceleration. Suppose he assumed that if the acceleration was 2 meters per second square. Okay, then he said that we know that according to the equation of motion, S is equal to ut plus half at square. Right? Here S will be what? The final distance traveled, that is the final position minus the initial position, is equal to ut plus half a into t square. Right? Here initially velocity is not there, so initial velocity will be 0. So this entire factor will become 0. So here position is nothing but what? Yf. Suppose Yf is here, this will also be 0 because initial position is 0 here. Y is 0 I have taken here. Right? So Yf minus 0 is equal to half at square. Now here suppose I have assumed the acceleration to be 2 meters per second, then Yf is equal to half into 2 t square, right? So 2 will get cancelled. So Yf is equal to t square. So this was the equation of motion he assumed back in those days. Okay, so he told that this is nothing but the equation of motion. Let us assume that this is the equation of motion. Then what did Galileo do? Now position y and then t. Okay. Now position is 0, then time will definitely be 0. If position becomes 1, then time will be what? 1 square. If position becomes 2, then the time will be what? 2 square. Right? 2 square is nothing but what? 4. Right? Yes, children? Now suppose position is 3. Then t will become what? 3 square. That is 9. Then suppose position is 4. Then what is t square? 16. Right? 16. So it continues that way. Now distance covered. Okay, what he did is he subtracted this and this. Then he subtracted this and this. He subtracted this and this. Then he subtracted this and this. So if I'm subtracting 1 minus 0, I get 1. Right? If I'm subtracting 4 minus 1. Yes, Baba?
Ma'am, but if position is like 2, then t will be root 2, right?
Position is 2. No, t square. Y is equal to t square. This is the equation we assume, no? So So if y is 2, then it will be 2 square. That is 4. Correct? Understood?
No,
Square, square. T square. Position. This is position. With respect to position, what is the time?
y is not equal to t, so it is t square. So root will, the square over t will go on to the left hand side and it will become root of y plus minus root of y, which is equal to
So
t.
why are you taking that?
Because y is not equal to t over here.
Y is not equal to t. I didn't understand.
How are you telling that 2 is equal to 2 square equals 4?
2 is equal to t. This is the equation we found, remember? Just now I taught you the derivation of it. He assumed,
Yes, ma'am.
that means yf, whatever is the final position, is nothing but square of its time. He took this equation. Yeah? So if you are assuming y as 0, then t will be what? 0 square, which is 0. Right? Then if y is 1, then it would be what? 1 square, which is 1. Then if y is 2, then t would be what? T square. That means yf is equal to t square, right? So 2 means 2 square. That will be 4. Yes?
So you are just telling y is equal to t.
Square.
That's what I...
No, y is equal to t squared.
Square. Square. You can't say the square here.
I understood that, ma'am, but how are you telling that t is 0 in the instance of 0, t is equal to 1 when it is...
No. Y. With respect to y, what is the value of t square? According to this equation. See, this is not our equation of motion. This is what he had assumed back in those days. We know our equation of motion, that is nothing but v is equal to u plus at, s is equal to ut plus r. That is our equation, right? So that is proper equation of motion when we did. But back in those days, there were no qualitative analysis. So what he assumed, what would be the position of the object when it is traveling under an inclined plane, right? How much distance it would cover. He gave an assumption. Okay, so this was all his assumption that we are studying. It's not the actual motion, okay? It's just his law, what he actually calculated. How these odd numbers came into existence. All about that. Yes, don't be confused. Don't be confused. It's an assumption, children. Yes? Azam.
Yes, ma'am.
Clear? Okay, so with respect to position, time taken is how much? It will be square. Square of the time taken will be the position versus assumption. Okay, so similarly, 2 square is nothing but 4. If the position is at 2, then the time taken will be its square. So, if the position is 2, then t square would be its value. So, that means 4. Understood now, Azam? Azam?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Alright. Now, 4 minus 1 is what, children? 4 minus 1 is 3. Right? Now, 9 minus 4 is 5. 16 minus 9 is 7. So you see here the ratio when he took, right? Whenever he took the ratios, it came in the form of 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, 0.7, so on. Okay? This is why he called it as a law of odd numbers. That means, now see, if the position is at 0, okay, time is equal to 0, it is 0. Now, at position 2, it travels here. That means it becomes 4 here. And the distance traveled. Now, suppose position is 2. Okay, here from position 2, it becomes 4. That means 4. That means the distance between them is nothing but 3 units. Okay, then again it increases to 5 units. Then again it increases to 7 units. So this was his law. That means as the object goes, right, it keeps on, increasing in odd values, he said. So that was his law of odd numbers. Okay. So this is called as Galileo's law of odd numbers. Nothing. He just took this equation. Okay. He substituted at whichever position, what is the time taken and how much distance that it has traveled. That is nothing but whatever the time taken is minus the initial time taken. So that means 4 minus 1, 1 minus 0, 9 minus 4, 16 minus. So in every case, he took a lot of angles, okay, not just an inclined plane. He took different angles, and every time he took it, always he got odd numbers only. Okay, that is why he said, yes, I think that whenever an object goes in an inclined plane, it always goes, its distance is nothing but odd numbers. It always covers up odd numbers. Okay, stopping distance for a vehicle. Now, What do you mean by stopping distance for a vehicle? Now suppose what happens is you're going somewhere, okay? You apply brakes, correct? So the distance, the time taken by an object or the distance covered, how much distance is covered once you apply the brake till it stops. That is called as stopping distance. Understood? So if brakes are applied to a moving vehicle, if suppose this is a vehicle which is moving, okay, suppose this is a vehicle which is actually moving, and if we apply some brakes here, okay, if brakes are applied to a moving vehicle, the distance it takes before coming to stop. So here I apply the brake and it will distance. Am I clear? Okay, so it is nothing but it is an important factor for road safety. Its value depends on at what speed. So it depends on two factors. First factor is at what speed. Okay, at what speed the vehicle is running. At what speed the vehicle is running or speed of vehicle. Okay, and the second factor that it depends on is nothing but the efficiency of the braking system. How efficient? Efficiency of braking system. How efficient is your brake? Is it functioning properly or no? Alright, so how efficient is your braking system and also what is the speed of the vehicle? So these two factors gives rise to something called as, these two factors affect our stopping distance. Okay, now let ds be the distance traveled by the vehicle before it stops. Now before this has to stop, this is the stop here, I applied a brake here, right? So we should just hold the clutch and then apply the brake for a car to stop, right? So what happens is, if let me assume that ds, let this ds be the distance traveled by vehicle before it stops. The distance traveled by vehicle, distance traveled by vehicle before it stops, okay, before it stops. That means I have applied a brake, okay, I have applied a brake and it is coming to stop. So how much distance it has traveled after I apply the brake? Let that distance be ds. Okay, then we know by using the equation of motion. What is the equation of motion? We know that v square is equal to u square plus 2as, right? Now here we have taken s as ds, so it will become what? V square is equal to u square plus 2a into ds, right? So what is ds now? ds is nothing but bring this minus u to this side. But first, before that, we know here finally it has to stop, right? So final velocity will be 0. Correct? Once we apply the brake, finally it has to stop. So final velocity is 0. So here this will become 0. So 0 is equal to u square plus 2a into ds. Okay? So bring this u square to this side. It will become minus u square is equal to 2a into ds. Right? So ds is nothing but minus u square by 2a is nothing but ds. So this is nothing but the formula for stopping distance of a vehicle. Okay, so ds is nothing but minus u square by 2a. Alright, so the stopping distance is directly proportional to what? The square of the initial velocity, right? So if the initial velocity is doubled, then its stopping distance increases by a factor of 4. Yes or no, children? So whatever is the initial velocity u is directly proportional to, the stopping distance is directly proportional to, that means ds is directly proportional to square of the initial velocity. That means if this is 2, then this will become what? 4, right? So 2 square, which is nothing but 4, right? So if I'm increasing it, then this will become double. So if I'm doubling this, then it will become 4 times, a factor of 4. The topic so that we can solve a lot of problems. Okay, so now the next concept is reaction time. Reaction time. How much do we have time still for the class to complete?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay, no problem. We can start. Okay, now when a situation demands our immediate action, it takes some time before we really respond, right? Now suppose you're going in a vehicle, some person comes, right? So immediately you respond. So some time is taken for you to respond. So you should stop. So what is the time taken for you to react? That is called as reaction time. Okay, so reaction time is defined as the time a person takes to observe, think and act. Okay, you observe, you think and you act. That is called as reaction time. Now, example, if a person is driving a car and suddenly a boy appears on the road. So suppose a car is going this side and suddenly a boy comes here, he appears on the road. So he has to stop. right? So then the time elapsed before he applies the brake. By looking at that, how much time he took to apply the brake immediately. That is called as reaction time. Okay, so the time elapsed between this person to observe, think, and act and apply that brake. That time, that elapsed time is nothing but what? It is nothing but reaction time. Clear? That is called as reaction time. So reaction time depends on two factors again. Okay, what is the first factor? It depends upon an individual presence of mind. Presence of mind. How his presence of mind. And the next thing is the complexity of the situation. Complexity of the situation. So he should think what he should do, right? So two things it depends on. How complex is the situation and how present is he? Okay, is he observing? So it all depends on these two factors. So that is called as reaction time. Clear? Clear? And we denote reaction time as TR. Reaction time. Okay, so that's it, children. In the next class, I'll teach you, we'll do some examples related to all of these like free fall, then stopping distance and reaction time. And then I'll take you forward with the next one, that is relative velocity. And that's the end of chapter. Alright, children? Alright, so I hope the board is visible and clear to everybody. Yes, I hope the board is visible and clear to everyone. Alright, before going ahead with relative velocity, can someone quickly summarize what did we study in the previous class? What have we studied previously?
Motion, equations of motion in free fall, and then Galileo's law of odd numbers, and then stopping time.
Distance, Galileo's law of odd numbers. Now the last and the most important concept in this chapter is relative velocity. Okay, this is really very important for your NEET, JAM, what is that, JEE mains. Okay, so this concept they will ask you a lot of times. One question will come of relative velocity. Okay, so see that you all will understand this properly. Alright, children. Now when I'm telling about relative, you all know what is velocity, right? What is velocity? Change in displacement upon time. Okay, so how speed in a direction or how much there's a change in displacement at that particular time. We call it as velocity, rate of change of displacement. Now, when I'm talking about relative velocity, okay, now relative velocity always happens in a fixed frame of reference. Alright, now you all know what is frame of reference. What is frame of reference? What is frame of reference?
It is the observer.
Yes, basically it's the observer. With respect to my frame, what is board? Okay, what distance is board or what is the velocity of the board? So that is frame with respect to some kind of an observer.
Motion is taken with motion.
Sorry, motion is
Taken with respect to a frame of reference. It means, ma'am, when a motion is taken with respect to a frame of reference, it means that we calculate the change in position with respect to that point.
Exactly. Okay, so always whenever I'm talking about velocity, okay, velocity or relative velocity, not velocity, relative velocity, it is with respect to two objects. Okay, now let me consider one example here. Alright, so it is applied when two cars or any vehicles are moving in parallel lines. Now what happens here is, when I'm dealing about relative velocity, I'll explain you with an example. Okay, now suppose there are two cars which are traveling in a straight line. Alright, this is car A and this is car B. Okay, now what happens here is, I'll tell you what is the meaning of this statement. Okay, first I'll read out. It is the measurement of velocity of an object with respect to other observer. It is defined as the time rate of change of relative position. Time rate of change of relative position of one object with respect to the another object. Okay, now it means, now suppose A and B, okay, both of them, these both objects or cars basically, they are moving in some particular velocity, right? Now what is the velocity of B with respect to A, or what is the velocity of A with respect to B? That means I am knowing with relative to B what is my velocity, or if I'm in B, if I'm in car B, with relative to A, what is mine? Okay, so that is called as relative velocity with respect to time. Alright, children. So let this start at time t is equal to 0. Now suppose two cars are starting, okay. Now let them start at some time interval t is equal to 0, okay. Now at time t is equal to 0, at the time, and they reach some particular distance at, suppose this reaches here and this reaches here. At time t, at some time t, they reach some two particular distances, okay. So there is a rate of change of their position at two particular instances at time is equal to t. Now the difference of their position is called as the relative position. Now from here to here it has travelled, from here to here it has travelled. So difference between their positions is nothing but relative displacement or relative position we call them. Okay, now therefore the rate of change of relative position, how is their position changing? Rate of change with respect to time, right? So the rate of change of relative position or time rate of change of relative position, this is called as relative velocity of the object. Understood, children, what this definition means? Okay, it means that it is a measurement of velocity of an object with respect to each other. Okay, suppose if this is the observer with respect to this, what is this relative velocity? Or if this is our observer with relative to this, what is the relative velocity of this object? Okay, so it is defined as time rate of change of relative position of one object with respect to the other object. Okay, so let us deduce this equation of relative velocity now. Alright, now first what happens is, now both the objects are at initial time. So time taken is 0, okay. So from time is equal to 0, let their initial positions be x01. I have taken simply. You can take it as xa, xv, okay. You can take like that also. So people have given different names. But what I have taken x01 and x02. Okay, so let x01 and x02 be the displacement or distance at the initial position when time is equal to 0. Okay, now both of them are going in a parallel line. Okay, both of them are going in straight line, and the velocity of my object A is v1 and velocity of object B is v2. Alright, now what happens is at time t is equal to 0, let the initial position of A be x01 when at time t is equal to 0. Now similarly at time t is equal to, initial position of B will be what? x2, x02. Now it has travelled with velocity v1 and v2, right? Some velocity it has travelled. Now after certain time, let me assume like, if it is travelled for like 5 minutes per or 5 seconds, or let me take it as 500 seconds, whatever. At whatever time, let me generalize it to at time t. Okay, now at time t seconds basically, what we'll do is let the position of A. So wherever this position A, let this position A be x1, and wherever this B reaches, let this position be x2. At what? At this particular time t. Alright, that means I can say that x1 is what? x0 plus whatever velocity it has travelled at that particular time interval. Right? So let this be equation number 1. So x1 is what? x01, the initial position, plus the velocity that it has travelled into time. So that gives me the first displacement of the first position of the object A at time t. Alright, and x2 is nothing but what? Same, x02 initial position plus v2 into t, right, at time t. So these are nothing but two positions at time t. Now what I will do, I will subtract 1 with 2. Alright, so 1 minus 2, that is x1 minus x2 is what? x01 minus x02 plus t is common, take out, into v1 minus v2. Right, now what will happen? Now let me just generalize. This x1 minus x2, this is called as the relative position. Okay, relative position to each other, x1 and x2. So let me take x1 minus x2 is x, and that is called as relative position at a time t. Okay, so instead of writing x1 minus x2, I will just write it as x. Then what about x01 minus x02? Both are initial display or initial positions, right? So let me generalize it to x0. Instead of writing x01 and x02, I will directly write it as x0. Okay, so therefore the final equation x1 minus x2, I have taken it as x, and x01 minus x02, I have taken it as x0. So the final equation will become x is equal to x0 plus t into v1 minus v2, right? So therefore what I'll do now, V1 minus V2 is nothing but relative velocity, right? So V1 minus V2 is equal to, bring this x0 to this side. It will become x minus x0. Plus x0 will become minus x0. So x minus x0 is equal to, you will get like this, x minus x0 is equal to t into V1 minus V2, right? Now I want only V1 minus V2, that is relative velocity. Now bring this t to this side into V1 minus V2. When it will go this side, it will become divided by x minus x0 divided by t is equal to V1 minus V2, we take it, right? So this is nothing but, we can say that x minus x0 is the relative position with respect to time, right? So relative position with respect to time is nothing but what? Relative velocity, the change, basically the time rate of change of relative position with respect to one another. The time rate of change of relative position with respect to one another is nothing but relative velocity. So therefore we can say that x minus x0 divided by t is nothing but time rate of change, right? So that is dx by dt, which is nothing but v, correct? So instead of writing x minus x0 by t, I will write it as v. V is equal to v1 minus v2. So this is the final expression of relative velocity. Clear, children? And it is a vector quantity, of course, because it has a direction, right? Always we will represent relative velocity because it is with respect to this, right? Velocity with respect to the other object, it has a direction. So this is nothing but the entire expression how we derive relative velocity. Am I clear? Now, this relative velocity has 4 cases. Okay, so we will discuss. So you know what is relative velocity now. So with relative velocity, we will discuss 4 cases. Okay. We have 4 cases to deal with when it comes to relative velocity. So how does this relative velocity change with different systems? Okay, now first case. Okay, now we already know that relative velocity v is equal to v1 minus v2, right? Now case 1 is if v1 is equal to v2, what is the relative velocity? V is equal to v1 minus v1 only, no? Yes, because if v1 is equal to v2, then instead of writing v2, can I write v1? So relative velocity will be what? v1 minus v1 is 0. Right? Yes? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So if I'm plotting a graph here, okay? If I'm plotting a graph between displacement versus time taken, okay? Now suppose I have two systems, 2 cars going in this velocity v1 and one more car is going in this velocity v2. That means we say that the 2 objects 1 and 2 are in constant distance and their position time graphs are straight lines which are parallel to each other. Okay, so position time graph, when we plot the position time graph between the 2 objects, if we get relative velocity as 0, that means they are constantly in motion. Okay, they are straight lines, they are parallel to each other. So this is the first case. Understood? Understood, children? What is the first case? Yes? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now next case is second case. Okay, this was case 1. Now let me see what is second case. Case 2. Now case 2, they say if V2 was greater than V1, then what will happen? If V2 is greater than V1, then can we say that that relative velocity V is equal to V1 minus V2 will be negative? Why? If suppose V1 is 2 meter per second and V2 is 5 meter per second. So what is the final answer? Minus 3 meter per second, right? So definitely minus, that means it is negative. Negative velocity, we say, right? So I can finally say that, because V is negative, one graph is steeper than the other and both of them meet at one common point. So if I'm plotting a graph again between displacement and time, okay, now see here, V2 is negative, right? V2 is more, V2 is greater. So if V1, if it is going in this direction and V2 is going in this direction, that means in the negative direction. So both of them meet at a point here, right, children? So V1 and V2. Here V2 is greater, so it's meeting here. here at one point. So we finally say that one graph is steeper than the other and both of them meet at one common point. It's more steeper, okay? It goes on becoming steep. So this is the second case, alright? Third case, what about case 3? Okay, third case is also similar to this, but just something different, that's all, okay? Now if V1 and V2 are of opposite signs, case 3, if V1 and V2 are of opposite signs, what will happen if V1 and V2 are of opposite signs? That means, let me consider, if V1 is positive, okay, and V2 is negative. What will happen here? Now, we all know that V is equal to what? V1 minus V2, right? So, V1 is positive minus V2 is negative, minus of V2. So, it will become what? V1 minus into minus plus V2, right? Yes? V1 plus V2 we will get. So, this is nothing but the two objects again meet at a point. That means, now you see here, if two objects are there, okay, now one example is train, okay. So one train is going faster, but the other train is going a little slower. Now at one point, okay, now suppose one person sitting there and suppose you are one person and the other person is sitting in the train. At one point of time, both of you cross each other, right? One is going in this way, one is going in this way. So both once only will meet each other. Correct? At that point. That means what? We say that, in generally, if the objects under consideration are two trains, then for a person sitting on either side of the train seems to go very fast. It is because the relative velocity becomes so faster, that is V1 plus V2, because of their relative velocities, we tell it, right? So this is nothing but the third case. And in third case also, it's the same graph that we check out, okay? That is displacement versus time. Okay, so in opposite signs, whenever there are opposite signs, if V1 is increasing, V2 is decreasing, definitely this is the point of contact, right? So therefore we say that again, we meet at a particular point. So this is basically the graph for third case of relative velocity. Am I clear, children? Understood? Understanding?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, now next, the last case of relative velocity. Okay, now the fourth case of relative velocity, when both the objects 1 and 2 move parallel to each other. Okay, fourth case is when V1 and V2 move parallel. Okay, their velocities are parallel to each other. When both of them move parallel to each other and in a straight line but opposite direction. Okay, but they are in opposite direction. That means one goes like this and one more goes like this. They are parallel, but one is going in positive direction, one is going in the negative direction. Initially what we saw that they were crossing, they were meeting, they were in parallel. But the last case says, what if both of them were parallel and their signs was opposite? What is the relative velocity in this case? Okay, now, so if V1 is positive and V2 is negative, okay, let us assume, let V1 be positive and let V2 be negative. Two cases can arise from here, right? If V1 is positive, V2 is negative, or V2 is positive and V1 is negative. So two types of relative velocities is possible, correct? So let me consider first case. We know that V is equal to V1 plus V2, right? That means V1 is positive, they say, and V2 is negative. So V can be written as what? V1 minus V2, correct? So this can be one case. Oh, sorry. It will add up. Wait. So it is, our relative velocities formula is V is equal to V1 minus V2, correct? So V is equal to V1 is positive, so write here minus of V2 is negative, so minus of V2, correct? So this will become again V1 minus into minus plus V2. That means, it will add up to whatever distance it is going, it will add up, okay? That means it will go little more ahead. Or this is first case, okay, when they are parallel and when they have both opposite signs. Or it can also be if V1 is negative and V2 is positive. So what will happen? We know that relative velocity V is equal to V1 minus V2. So V1 is negative, they said. So it will become minus V1 minus V2. Yes? So it can be either both of them. This can also be there or this can also be there. It depends on which direction V1 and V2 is going. Am I clear, children? Am I clear? Understood? 4 cases?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Alright. So after knowing about this, we have completed the entire chapter 3, that is motion in a straight line. We'll start then. Okay. So let's do one problem based on free fall. Okay. So now, discuss the motion of the object, take down, discuss the motion of the object under free fall, neglect air resistance. Discuss the motion of an object under free fall. Discuss the motion of an object under free fall, neglect air resistance. Discuss the motion of an object under free fall and neglect air resistance. Okay, so what can we say about free fall, children? Just now in the morning I taught you what is free fall, right? Free fall is nothing
Ma'am,
but...
in free fall an object, the only force acting on the object is gravitational force.
Exactly, right? And this thing should come to your mind. So first thing you can write is, an object released near the surface of the earth is always accelerated downwards, right? So if one ball is here, if you're throwing it upwards, it will go and finally it will come back down only. Why? Because there's acceleration due to gravity. Even if it is going up, though velocity is up, still the gravitation is down here, right? Acceleration due to gravity which is acting downwards. At the maximum position, V is 0, but still the acceleration is downwards. And here it comes down, yes, greater velocity, it comes down, right? So velocity is downwards, even what is that? G, that is acceleration due to gravity, is also present. So therefore we can say an object released near the surface of the earth. Whatever object is released near the surface of the earth is accelerated downward under the influence of force of gravity, right? What is that force? That is called as force of gravity, gravitational force. The magnitude of acceleration due to gravity is represented by G. So you should write all this, okay? And the value of G is what? 9.8 meter per second square, or up to 10 also they take. Some people can take up to 10 meter per second square. Okay, it is always constant, and free fall is thus the case of motion with uniform acceleration. Alright, so it is a case whenever you have uniform acceleration. Then we assume that the motion is in y direction. We always assume that yes, gravitation is always in y direction, plus y or minus y. But as you know that it is downwards and it is having a negative sign. So that's why we take G is equal to minus 9.8 meter per second square. Clear? Clear, children? Now, assuming this, we can write what? The equations of motion, right? So, equations of motion, we know that V is equal to U plus GT. Then, what will happen here? Now, suppose there's no initial velocity. Alright, so if the object is released from rest, that means if the object is released at y is equal to 0, then what will happen? U will become 0 minus 9.8 into t, right? So, therefore, final velocity V will be what? V is equal to minus 9.8 into t. This is the first equation you get. Now, second equation is what, children? S is equal to ut plus half at square. Here, S is nothing but height we have taken, right? S distance is nothing but the height traveled in a free fall. So, h is equal to ut plus half. A will become gt square, right? So again, when it is released from the position of rest, so ut will become 0. So finally, it will be left with half g into t square, right? What is that? H. So h is equal to 1 by 2. What is g? 9.8 into t square. So this will be what? What is 9.8 divided by 2, children? 9.8 divided by 2?
4.9.
Correct. So it is 4.9 t square. Okay, so this is nothing but the second law takes this form. Now what about the third law? That is v square is equal to u square. V square is equal to u square plus 2gh, right? So v square is equal to, again it is released at rest, so u is 0 here, plus 2 into minus 9.8 into h. H value, we can write the value of h or just keep it as it is. So this will be what? V square is equal to 0. Now 2 into 9.8 is what here? 9.8 multiplied by 2. 2 8s are 16, 2 9s are 18 plus 1, 19. 19.6. That is minus 19.6 h. So we get three equations of motion. V square is equal to minus 19.6 into h. Clear? So these are the three equations which we get when a motion is under free fall. Clear, children? Yes? Clear? Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, so this is there in your NCERT, okay? So you need to answer it in this manner. So you need to describe what is free fall, you need to show what is acceleration due to gravity, you need to show what are equations of motion and what form they finally take whenever it is under free fall. And what is free fall? It is acceleration due to gravity without air resistance. Okay, so air resistance is not into picture. If it is without air resistance, then we say that it is a free fall. Clear, children? Am I clear? If there is some resistance, then what will happen? We will feel the weight, right? So the main idea of feeling weightlessness is why? Because of negligence of air resistance. All right. So we will take down one more problem. It says, example, this is also in your NCERT. A ball is thrown vertically upwards. A ball is thrown vertically upwards with a velocity of 20 meters per second. With a velocity of 20 meters per second. So this is the velocity. Alright. And they said from the top of a multi-story building. From top of multi-story building. From top of a multi-story building. Then the height of a point from where the ball is thrown. The height of the point from where the ball is thrown, is the height of the point from where the ball is thrown 25 meters from the ground, is 25 meters from the ground. Okay, two things they have told us to find. First one is how high will the ball rise? How high will the ball rise? And the second one is how long will it be before the ball hits the ground? How long will it be? That means they are asking us time here. Okay, time limit. So how long will it be before the ball hits the ground? Will it be? Can you all hear me? Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Fine. Yes. So consider vertical upward motion of a ball up to highest point. Okay, before that, let me consider one thing. Now, suppose this is the ground here. Okay, this is the ground. See, a ball is thrown vertically upward with a velocity of 20 meters per second, they say. Right? Now, we say that, suppose this is a ball, it is thrown vertically upward and this is 20 meters per second. Then, from top of a multi-story building, that means from top it is thrown, not here. Okay. So this is the multi-story building. From top we have thrown the ball 20 meters per second. Okay. From this top we have thrown it. And then what else? The height of the point from where the ball is thrown is 25 meters. So from here to here, the height of this point from where we throw it is 25 meters from the ground. How high will the ball rise? They are asking. So how high will it go here and come down? We need to find. How high? This much. Okay, not required to come down, but how high will it rise? Okay, so let us check out now. Now we have already we need to assume 9.8. Okay, if they gave us 10, then take 10. If not, it will always be 9.8. Now we know that consider vertical upward motion of the ball up to highest point. So we have initial velocity will be what? 20 meter per second, and at highest point v is definitely 0. Correct? V is definitely 0 at highest point, and acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity is what here, children? Minus 10 meters per second square. Yes? Yes? So therefore, what else can we find here? Let time be equal to t1. Okay, now we know, what do we know? Let the height, whatever height they have asked, let it be h, right? According to the equations of motion, we know that equation of motion with respect to gravitation, v square is equal to u square plus 2gh. Yes? Yes? So this will be what? U square is 20 the whole square plus 2 into acceleration due to gravity is minus 10 into height. What is height here? Height they have given? No, final velocity. We need to find what is h. Correct? So this will be what, children? It will be 20 square is 400 minus 2 into 10 is 20, right? 2 10s are 20 into h. So therefore, let me bring this 400 to this side. Plus 400 will go here. It will become minus 400 is equal to minus 20h.
Got the answer, ma'am.
Huh? Got it?
Got the answer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Very good. So h is equal to what now? Minus 400 divided by minus 20. So minus will get cancelled.
20.
0 will get cancelled. Huh? 2 1. Very good. So height is equal to what? 20 meters.
And time is equal to 5 seconds.
How did you get it so fast, man?
I took v is equal to u minus gt.
Uh-huh.
Then I substituted it, and then I took the next equation as that s is equal to ut plus half
GT
square.
GT square. Yes. Correct. Very
Then
good.
then t1 plus t2 is equal to 5 seconds. So that is
You
the
need to add them. That's all. Okay. So one part I have done. Can you find the second part, children, by yourself? Okay. How long will it be before it hits the ground? Can you try to find the second part by yourself? Yes?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So try to find it. We will continue in tomorrow's class. Okay. Now I think, what is the time? How many more minutes do we have?
2 minutes.
Yeah. So
4
if you-
minutes. Sorry.
4 minutes. Oh, then we can do it. Okay. So clear, children. Height we got 20 meters. Alright. Now we will go ahead with, we have to find the next one. That is time taken. Right. Now how long will it be before the ball hits the ground? Now, as shown in the figure, we have upward motion and we have...
Ma'am, I got 7 seconds as the answer.
No. Not 7 seconds. It should be 5 seconds. Okay.
Ma'am,
now-
it takes 4 seconds to...
Haha.
Ma'am, it takes 4 seconds to rise and 3 seconds to fall.
4 seconds to rise. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it and check out. Okay, we'll just check out. Okay, so let's start. Now in this method, we shall consider the net displacement. Okay, so net displacement is what? Final position minus the initial position. Right? So that is the net displacement. Final minus initial position, whatever. That is nothing but 25 meters according to the question. Right? So we already know. What do we know? That the final position is definitely 0 minus the initial position, that is nothing but what we have taken, 25, right? So 25 is equal to, what is it? We know that s is equal to ut plus half g t square, right? So s is nothing but this one, that is final position minus initial position. So if I'm taking minus 25 is nothing but the distance, or minus 25 is equal to u was, how much did we get u? 20, right? 20 square. Time taken, we don't know, so let it be t plus half into g.
Ma'am, why 20 squared? Just 20.
Oh, yeah. Correct. 20, not square. 20t plus half into g is what here? 10 into t square, right? So it will become minus 25 is equal to 2 1s are 2, 2 5s are 10. So 20t minus 5t square. So let me bring this in a form of a quadratic equation. It would be 5t square. 5t square. Bring this t minus 5t square here. It will become plus t square minus 20t minus 25 is equal to 0. So let me solve the quadratic. Let 5 is common between them. So take 5 out. T square minus 4t minus 5 is equal to 0. So 5 will go here. It will become 0. So it will be t square minus 4t minus 5 is equal to 0. So solve this quadratic equation now. What do we get?
Yes, ma'am. T equals 5. T equals 5.
Yeah. So let's check what we get. So it is t square minus 4t minus 5 is equal to 0. So 1 into 5 is 5. So 5 ones are 5 minus plus. So t square minus 5t then plus 1t minus 5 is equal to 0. So what is common between them? Let me write it the other way. Let me write it as t square plus 1t minus 5t minus 5 is equal to 0. Group. So it will be what? T is common, so it will be t plus 1 minus 5 is common, t plus 1 is equal to 0. So therefore we will have t plus 1 is equal to 0 or t minus 5 is equal to 0. So therefore t would be minus 1 and t would be plus 5. We cannot take negative value, so we will consider t is equal to plus 5. Got it, children? Easy? Understood? We don't want to take negative value. We can't take negative value, right? So we will consider the positive value, that is t is equal to plus 5 seconds. Clear? Am I clear, children? T is equal to plus 5 seconds. Yes?